Thanks so much, Leo. Really appreciate it. Is everyone having a good morning so far? Yeah. Did you have coffee on the break? I didn't really hear you guys. Is everyone having a good morning? Yes. You were louder in the hallway before. All right, perfect. So what we're going to talk about today is all around mastering LinkedIn and really starting to master LinkedIn for real business results. So who in here wants to grow their business? All hands should be up, right? Obvious. Now, there are two ways that you can show up on LinkedIn. And there are two really key strategies that you can use on LinkedIn if you want to grow. The first way is we can grow our presence online. We can share viral content. We can post 7 days a week. We can grow hundreds of thousands of followers, or even millions of followers, millions of impressions on the platform. And we can try and become LinkedIn famous, right? Who's up for that? I didn't think so. So today, if it's all right with you, I'm going to share way number 2. Now, way number 2 is if you didn't start your business to be a full-time content creator, but we want to use LinkedIn as a tool, as a strategy to bring in the right people into the business and grow that way. Would that be okay? Great. And we're going to do it in a way which aligns with your business and your life and doesn't mean that you have to post 7 days a week. So does that feel good for everyone? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So when we talk about LinkedIn, I've got a couple of warnings for you. The first one is that I'm a huge LinkedIn nerd, and I can talk about LinkedIn all day long. We have a very finite period of time together, and so I'm going to do my best to put as much as I possibly can into this, but that means I'm going to go fast, and that means we want to write fast and take notes along the way. Is that all right? Yep. Perfect. Now, I'm also really biased towards LinkedIn working. I'm biased because I've had that same effect happen for me in my business, and I've grown my business using LinkedIn as my main channel, even before I taught LinkedIn. And then I'm also biased because I have lovely friends and clients like Leo and Tony and others who I have the evidence of seeing that they're generating leads and clients through the platform each and every week as well. So I'm not here to convince you that LinkedIn is the way for your business, but I'm here to share a few practical insights that are working right now on the platform for others in the hope that you can pull out what you need for your business and apply it for you. All right? Sound good? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Now, I also have a bit of a confession because right now in my life, I'm quite the hermit at home. I have an almost 2-year-old daughter, and most of the talks that I do these days are like this, behind a Zoom screen. And so I might say a few weird things as we go along the way. All right? Some of those things might sound like, if I ask you a question, I might ask you to unmute before you speak. Or I might say, give me a thumbs up in the chat. Or comment down below. All right? So if any of that happens, are we all okay to just roll with it as we go? All right. Perfect. Perfect. So let's talk a little bit around what's happening. So I was speaking to a friend of mine. His business is doing around $30 million a year. And we were having a talk around a couple of years ago, the differences in what it was like then versus now in business. And one of the things we spoke about was when someone first enters into your world, when they know nothing about you, they're brand new, they're cold to you, that might be through connecting on LinkedIn. That also might be jumping onto your email list and subscribing. But essentially, there's an action that happens where someone goes from, I know nothing about you, to then, I want to learn a bit more. And we had a bit of a look and a bit of a chat around 2 years ago. If someone was to do that, I said, how long would it take for that person to then become a client? Right, to go through the buyer's process, the buyer's journey, to then end up as a client. And he said, probably around 30 days. I said, okay. I said, so fast forward to now, if the same thing happens, someone's brand new to you, jumps on your email list, connects with you on LinkedIn, never heard of you before, how long until they become a client? He said it's averaging now about 6 months, right? So give me a nod if anyone else has felt the market shift in the last couple of years, right? Where we are now operating in an environment where the way people buy has changed. We're in an environment right now, particularly on LinkedIn, where trust is at an all-time low and skepticism is at an all-time high. Would we agree? Are we feeling that a little bit with our interactions? Yeah, perfect. And so the reaction for most people when they think about, well, I need a new client, or I need a new customer, or I need to do some more marketing, right, is what I call activate desperate marketing mode. And I can see a few smiles and nods in the room. We know what that looks like, right? We can go all guns blazing. We go, I've got to get clients, I've got to market, I've got to market, I've got to market, I've got to sell. And then this happens. The pitch slap, right? This is what happens. Who here has received one of these kind of messages on LinkedIn? Hands up. Okay. Who here has sent one of these messages on LinkedIn before, right? Now it's time to out yourself. It's all right, we're all friends here. But this is what happens, right, is people go into desperate marketing mode. They're reacting on the back foot, and they go, I just need to do the shortest thing possible to try and make a sale, all right? Two things can happen. Is we either go, well, this feels icky. I don't want to show up in this arena. Like, I just don't want to use LinkedIn at all because I'm just getting pitch slapped all the time. As a business owner, part of the territory, right? People are going to want to pitch slap us. And then the other aspect is that if we get these messages, then instinctively we go, well, I don't want to be that person, all right? And as soon as we go, I don't want to be that person, we use it as an excuse to not market and not reach our market in some cases, all right? And so the mindset that I want us to take into this session today is really about LinkedIn and going, okay, how can I get this working for me in the business, right? Because there's some things that you might have tried that didn't go your way. There's some things that didn't happen as fast as what you wanted, or you've had different experiences and all of those sorts of things, all right? And so the main thing is we want to go, how can I actually get LinkedIn working for me in my business, all right? So there's three things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how do we really align ourselves for the LinkedIn platform so that our ideal customers, clients, and audience can come and find us, all right? LinkedIn went through a really big algorithm shift in the last 12 months or so. And what actually happened was it started changing the rules of the game. It started changing the rules of the platform. And so for many people, what they experienced is that they started to use LinkedIn and they started to apply what works in other channels, but it just wasn't working on LinkedIn. Has anyone had that experience before? Yeah. And so LinkedIn now has gone from what we call more of a social media channel to an interest channel and a decision-making channel, okay? And so what that means for us is we need to start aligning ourselves to how the platform works, all right? So we need to start showing up and playing the rules of the game when it comes to LinkedIn. Then we want to look at how do we actually start getting in front of the right people? How do we start to accelerate our network? Because right now on LinkedIn, we have over 1 billion users on the platform, right? Billion users. Around in Sydney or in Australia as a whole, you're looking at about 14 million people. So my question to you is, it's not actually about trying to generate noise for everyone. It's not about trying to reach everyone. But what if you could only access 2% of that market, of that user base? Like, would that be enough for you to grow a really profitable business, right? Yeah, lots of heads are nodding. Yeah, perfect. So when I think about LinkedIn and I think about where we want to spend our energy and where we want to spend our time, we want to think about where the platform is going and we want to jump on that train. So HubSpot actually did a study, and what that study showed was it looked at the social media platforms, and it looked at Twitter, and it looked at Facebook, and then it looked at LinkedIn. Now this was a score based on lead generation specifically. So when we came up here, we look at LinkedIn was well above the other social media tools when it comes to actually using it as a platform for lead generation. So interestingly enough, this was a study for B2B and B2C. So who here in the room sells B2B? Hands up, I want to see, just a survey. Who sells B2C? Who's not sure why they're here or just confused in general? Okay, all right, perfect. So whichever way you go on LinkedIn, it came out on top as a lead generation tool. So for me, this is just me personally, my opinion, might not have anything to do with you, but currently with my life and raising a little toddler, I work about 2.5 days in my business. And so I have a limited amount of time to make things happen. And so if I'm going to spend my time, I want to make sure that I'm getting a really good return in terms of business results. So for me, when I look at this, I'm all in on LinkedIn, but I already told you I'm biased. So we knew that. But this is where it kind of got started for me. So this was little old Amy, first ever LinkedIn post. So I had been on LinkedIn for, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years prior to this, in my role as an executive recruiter in different HR management roles across Canada, across the UK, across Australia. But I was what I would call a LinkedIn lurker. I would be on the platform, I would use it for my day job, I would, headhunt different CEOs and do what I needed to do, but I never actually started to post or think about my own brand. Give me a nod if anyone is feeling in a similar boat and you would identify as a LinkedIn lurker. We see other people doing it, we're like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if that could be me, right? I don't want to put myself out there. So I ran this little experiment and I was actually trying to prove myself right at the time. I just thought it was a waste of time and it wasn't going to work. And so at the time, I was running my career coaching business and I posted this video on just talking about like an interview mistake. Now this video took me 6 hours. 2 minutes to film the actual video, 5 hours and 58 minutes to build up the courage to hit post. Has anyone been in the same boat? We draft a post, we think this will be great, really excited about this, my market's going to love it, and then the laundry looks like it needs attention, or I go make myself a cup of tea, or I do whatever I need to do just to avoid that thing of posting. And so I ran this as an experiment. I thought, you know what, just got to do it. So I hit post, came back, looked at it later, over 200 and something likes, 100 and something comments, and I thought, well, damn, I guess I was wrong. Out of those, that launched my business. So I got my first few clients in the career coaching programs I was running at the time, and then I was able to go to my boss in the next 12 weeks and quit my job and never looked back since. So the reason I share this with you is because there are varying degrees of engagement and things that you can get on LinkedIn. Maybe this was beginner's luck, but also I had all of the fears and all of the doubts that I think anyone does when they're first trying something new. It took me 5 hours and 58 minutes because in that time, I was freaking out. I was worried about what my ex-colleague would think. I was worried about not being smart enough for the platform or thinking like, everyone knows this stuff about interviews, what am I even sharing this for, right? And so my question to you is, have you ever had that moment where you've second-guessed your expertise on LinkedIn? Give me a nod, yep. And I just want everyone in this room to know that that is really normal and it's our job to get out of our own way and do it anyway. Because I guarantee you, there will be someone, and even if it's just one person in your network, that you can help, even if it doesn't generate a lead, even if it doesn't generate a client straight away. That's a good feeling to have, to know that you've helped one person. All right, give me a nod. We agree? Perfect. So we're going to talk about aligning to the platform, attracting the right kinds of audience for us, not just everyone. And we're also going to talk about how we can amplify this over time in the business so that you're not stuck on the content hamster wheel, trying to post 7 days a week, trying to be an online influencer, right? If anyone's called me a LinkedIn influencer or creator, I've like, oof, hate it, right? That's not the goal. And so I've given you a little bit of context as I got started, but I think it's just really, I guess, good for you to know that I didn't just wake up yesterday and decide to teach LinkedIn. I come from a place of teaching what I've personally applied myself in the business. So since then, I've generated 1.3 million plus in sales in my little tiny business on LinkedIn. And I have built over 32,000 connections and followers on the platform simply by showing up, getting out of my own way, and playing by the rules of the platform. I've gone on to help over 1,800 other service-based business owners, do a few talks like this when nice friends like Leo ask me, and I make the effort to get out of the house. All right, and I'm the founder of the In Demand program, where we help other service-based business owners to really grow their brand and their business on LinkedIn. Okay, so everything comes from what we're actually doing myself, what we're doing currently in the market as well. Now, you've probably picked up from my ethos that I'm not a 24/7 hustle kind of girl. I build the business and the life at the same time. So I kind of look at my business has to fit in with my life, not the other way around. So this is my daughter. Everyone can say, isn't she cute? All right. We do a quarterly overseas trip as a family. And so that's what we do, and we fit everything else in around that because that's important for us. And so the big idea here is thinking about what's important for you in the business and how can we get LinkedIn as a marketing strategy to work for you. All right? So we're going to do a little experiment right now, and it's going to involve you getting up off your seats. So everyone stand up for me really quick. All right. So just before we start, I want it to be clear there is no judgment here in this room. Anything goes. Is that all right? We all in agreement? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So I want you to keep standing if you have logged into your LinkedIn account within the last 30 days. Don't have to do anything. Just logged in the last 30 days. Okay. And I want you to keep standing if you've logged into LinkedIn in the last 30 days and you have made at least one interaction, all right? The big interaction that's happened in the last 30 days. All right, it could be that you've told a pitch slap person to politely go away. It could be that you've commented on someone's post, you've done a post yourself, but you've made some sort of interaction in the last 30 days. Keep standing. Okay, perfect. Keep standing if you have made a post from your personal LinkedIn account. So not your company page, your personal LinkedIn profile. It's getting dicey. All right. Keep standing if you have been doing at least one post per week in the last 30 days on LinkedIn. All right. Perfect. All right, everyone give a round of applause for our other LinkedIn nerds in the room. Well done. All right. Really interesting, right? Because what we're seeing on the platform right now, everyone can sit down, you can relax and chill out, it's all right. I won't start a Zumba class, you're okay. All right, so for anyone that wasn't standing there, or for anyone that is standing that wants to take it to the next level, there's a few problems that I see. So one is that we just don't have the strategy. We might know that our market's on LinkedIn. We might know that we should be using it in our business, but then the next steps feel a little bit blind, right? We're really not sure how to use it. We might be using LinkedIn, we might be posting, but at the same time, we're feeling like our efforts to create that post or to interact with that person is not actually bringing in the return that we would expect. All right, so it's low reward. Where are my skeptics in the room? Right? Totally okay, right? Especially if something's brand new to you, it's good to be skeptical. It's good to try it out, and it's good to figure out what works for you. And so we might just be a little bit hesitant because we've got a few barriers up around, well, LinkedIn won't work for me because X, Y, Z, right? I call that business unique-itis. It's not that good for growth. All right? So LinkedIn can work. We just got to make it work. All right? Maybe when it comes to the whole marketing or even sales side of the business, It's just not your genius zone. Okay? Who here started a business because they were great at a technical skill or great at wanting to help people that didn't involve the sales and marketing part at the beginning? Hands up? Yeah. Really, really common, right? That's how we start. But as everyone here in the room knows, because you wouldn't be here if you didn't hit a level of success already in your business, it takes more than just your genius zone, right, to run a really great business. So it's about looking at where are the pieces of the puzzle, where are the gaps, and we start filling in those gaps. Maybe you're like I was, and we're just really secretly scared, okay? We don't want to put ourselves out there. We don't want to be rejected, potentially. We don't want to feel judged, right? We are all humans, and that is normal. So I've worked with people starting out in business. I've worked with people who are running $100 million companies, anywhere in between. Everyone has a level of imposter syndrome in some element of their business, okay? So congratulations, you're all normal. All right. Maybe we've got limited time, which is valid, right? We're all busy, we're running businesses, we've got teams, we've got clients, customers to look after. So we want to make sure that the time we're investing is strategic and it's going to bring us a return as well. Who here has jumped onto LinkedIn before and they've just thought, I really want to post, but I'm just not sure what to post about? Has anyone thought about that? Yep. Yep, perfect. Yeah, I had a client, Anne, who was in the same boat because she was just saying, like, anything I think of or anything I go to post, I just think that, like, everyone else knows that. It's really, really obvious, right? And so what I said to her, and this might be useful for you as well, is that what's obvious to you isn't necessarily obvious to your ideal client or customer, because if it was, they would have gone ahead and solved their own problem already. Okay, so one of the quick wins that you can do if you're stuck for ideas on LinkedIn is you can think about how we can think about what are the main problems, what are the main challenges, what are some of the things that we can actually talk to that are specific for our market. All right. We also might be thinking about the quality side of our posts. Who wants to put out something on LinkedIn where everyone just thinks, well, that's rubbish, right? No one. So the thing is that most of us will sit back and we'll go, well, I only want to post something that's quality. And the most ironic thing about all of that, and it feels really counterintuitive, is that our market is the only person that determines what quality actually is. All right, what quality actually is. And so if we never post anything, we never actually find out what's quality to our market. Because what we think is a great idea, has anyone else had that thing in business where we go, this is a great idea, everyone's going to love it, might be launching a new campaign, launching a new product, and launching a new service. We put it out to the market, and the market goes, no thanks, I'm good. Has anyone had that in business or just me? Right? Yeah, it happens all the time. So we have to put things out there to then get the feedback of what actually is quality. All right? And so what I want us to do now is I want you to turn to the person on your left, and out of what we've heard so far, what's one thing that resonated with you the most that's been potentially holding you back in LinkedIn? 3, 2, 1, turn to your left, go. 3, 2, 1, can everyone hear me back in the room? All right, perfect. I want 3 shares. So I want one person, quick share. What stood out to you the most? Up the back, Daniel.
What's the relevance of hashtags on LinkedIn?
Was that part of the exercise?
That's one of my biggest limitations. I don't understand how to get traction.
Okay, perfect. We're going to talk a little bit about that in this next section. All right? Who paid attention to the actual exercise? Sorry, Daniel. Just to pick on Daniel. Okay, Tony? Consistency. Yeah. Okay, great. What about one from over this side of the room? What was something that was holding you back? Getting started? Yeah, just putting yourself out there? Yeah. Perfect. All right. So I'm just going to drop the mic for a minute. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, perfect. So when we think about LinkedIn, I mentioned at the start that I went through some really big changes in the last 12 months or so. So if we thought about LinkedIn previously, the way LinkedIn would assess a post is we have our first degree connections. In the middle, we'd have our second. And then over here, we'd have our third degree connections. Everyone sort of familiar with that terminology? Yep, perfect. So LinkedIn used to go like this. If we do a post, then LinkedIn is going to go, okay, that doesn't look that great, does it? I'm just going to extend that down. Okay, so LinkedIn would probably send it out to about 10% of our first degree audience, right? First degree network, we'd fill in all of this here, and then it would go, okay, from here, is this something that LinkedIn A wants on the platform? Is it something B that we think is sort of spam, AI, robots, or anything like that? This is all the robots doing the checks. And then C, is this something that people are engaging with? Is this something that they find relevant? And so if it got all of those ticks, LinkedIn would go, okay, great. Let's see if we can extend it up a little bit further within that same first degree network. And if it did, LinkedIn would say, okay, great. Let's test it over in the second degree network. So these are kind of like your once removed, right? Friend of a friend. And so when that happened and people still continued to engage, right, it got traction, then LinkedIn would go, well, let's send it out even further. Let's push it out even further to people that are probably like strangers, 6 degrees of separation, that kind of thing, right? And that's when we would see posts go viral. Okay? So now, with the new way of how LinkedIn is working, LinkedIn is all about relevance. LinkedIn is all about relevance. So yes, we have to get through the robots here, but actually, what we can do now is we've got 1, 2, 3. When there's a post that you post early on, your existing network is no longer a factor as to whether LinkedIn's going to push this out further or not. So we've essentially got rid of this like cap that people had on LinkedIn. And so if you have a post that you do and it does well, there's less hoops to jump. It just shoots straight through. And so this is why you'll hear a lot of people on LinkedIn, and this might even be your experience, where has anyone noticed over the last couple of maybe 12 months or even the last few months, you're starting to see posts that are a little bit older on your feed, like 3 weeks old, a couple of months old, right? That is because of this, all right? When they're no longer being judged on how big your network is, you're being judged on how relevant what you're posting is for your network. All right, is this making sense?
No.
Is it the same for personal and business profiles?
I'm so glad you brought that up. So the question was, is it the same for personal and business profiles? And the truth is that out of all the profiles that we've tested, all the profiles that we've looked at, personal profiles will always outperform company pages in terms of engagement. So what we're seeing on the platform right now is we're seeing founder-led brands growing very, very quickly. All right? And what we're seeing is that it's become a really even playing field, because there were people that built up, 50,000 followers, millions of followers on LinkedIn, and they would post something, it would get thousands of likes just instantly, right? Because they have that audience size. Now what we're seeing is people with an audience of 500 can go viral, can get hundreds of likes, hundreds of impressions, generate lots of leads for their business. All right? Because we don't have those hoops to jump through at this stage. So when we think about growing our brand, and when I often bring up growing like more of a founder-led brand on LinkedIn, who here just goes, nope, don't want to hide my company, and that's what I want to do, right? It feels a bit weird, right? It feels a bit weird. And so the real message is to not have to be Richard Branson in all of this. The real message is that we actually want to make sure that people are seeing the person behind the profile. Now, I did a little experiment again a few years ago, because I like doing these little experiments on LinkedIn, where I thought to myself, if it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, I got engaged at the time, and so I thought, there was a post that I wanted to do just about sharing my engagement, linking it to work, those sorts of things. Now, 6 or 7 years ago, I never ever would have posted that on LinkedIn. I would have thought that's just for Facebook. I wanted to prove myself wrong, posted on LinkedIn. I thought I would get a whole bunch of comments saying, put this on Facebook, take it off, we don't want to see it. Actually, what happened was that post went viral within 7 days. So it had over 250,000 impressions, had around 3,000 something likes and some comments, right? And so the big idea here is like, that is a post that's not necessarily a lead generating post for my business, but it is in a roundabout way. Because do we know in marketing that in order to get someone to move forward and know a bit more about your business, there needs to be an element of know, like, and trust. So what better way to get your audience to start to trust you than to start sharing a little bit of yourself behind the scenes. So I want you to write this down on your profile. There are 3 things that we want to think about with LinkedIn when we start to align our profile to make sure that it's doing the heavy lifting for our market. By heavy lifting, they know, like, and trust us fast. Okay? The first one is we want to connect. Write it down. Connect. We want to make that human connection with our audience. Who are we there specifically to serve, to specifically talk about? What are the problems that are just for them? Now, what I mean by champagne problems is if you're targeting a particular level of business or a particular level of company that might have a team over a certain size, or they might have, turnover of a certain size, they're going to have very different problems and challenges to someone that's in their first year starting out in business. Would we agree? So the temptation that we have is we go, I want to connect with other businesses or big businesses, but it's not specific enough. And so when we start talking about what I call champagne problems, it's what are those problems at that high level that are only relevant for your market? And actually, if you talk about champagne problems in your profile, it does a really nice way of politely pushing away the wrong fit, right? Because in this example, if you're talking about a high-level CEO, for instance, who's thinking about succession planning and thinking about other things in the business, for someone that's not thinking about that at all, they instantly go, oh, this is not for me. And that's great. Why? Because we don't have to waste our time with the wrong fit leads and with tire kickers. So the first thing you want to think about with your profile is we want to have an instant connection with our audience, talk directly to their problems. People on LinkedIn right now will assess you in about 6 seconds. All right, 6 seconds for them to actually look at your profile and decide, is this someone I want to read more about, or is this someone that I just want to jump off and look at a competitor of? All right, so connect is number 1. Number 2, credibility. Credibility. Now, Leo said this before, and the biggest mistake I see a lot of business owners making on LinkedIn is they show up with their LinkedIn profile like they would show up with their CV for a job. You're not looking for a job. You're looking for clients. You're looking for customers. All right, so it used to be years ago, it was good enough to maybe just to transfer some of your experience, your expertise and bullet points across to your LinkedIn, like you would have done for a CV. What we're seeing now is we really want to make sure that people have the experience of more of a landing page or a sales experience when they land on our profile. So it's turning your profile from a CV, where we simply list our credibility, and it's using more story-based selling in your profile to weave in your credibility. All right, so the next key is credibility, but we want to do that in a way that creates a story and doesn't read like a CV. Okay, give me a nod. This is making sense so far? Beautiful. All right. The last one is contact. Contact. Now, for so many people on LinkedIn, this seems like the most obvious thing, but so many people get this wrong. Okay? So I was at a networking event, maybe like, I don't know, when we could do those before COVID, and then COVID hit and things got weird. But then I was at this event, and I remember turning up. I was a little bit early. And I turned up to this event. There was me, there was one other guy. And we kind of did that awkward thing where we like looked at each other and we're like, oh, we're the early nerds. Whoopsie. Oh, well, we're here. And we could see in front of us there was like a table full of drinks, everything lined up, nice cheese platter, everything was there. And we both looked at each other and we didn't want to be that person that was like that awkward person to like go in and have the food first or go in and eat, right? I could feel my nan behind me being like, don't do that, right? So we didn't want to do that. And so we just stood there really awkwardly. It was kind of weird. But then the host of the networking event came over and he said, hey everyone, can see you early, that's great, awesome to have you here. We're going to kick off in 5 minutes. In the meantime, please grab yourself a drink, something to eat. Now I hadn't eaten lunch, so I was starving. I went straight in, right? But the funny thing was, like, we're two adults standing there and we both didn't move until we were given permission. And so the reason I share this is because your market is acting like that on LinkedIn. We might think that we've made it really obvious for them to contact us and reach out. But we want to make it like we're talking to a 5-year-old, right? In terms of the instructions that we want to do and how we want to take people from never heard of us before to then taking that next step, all right? So if we think about profile, in case you didn't get it, the first thing is connect. Next. Next is credibility. And then the third one is contact. So that might be a direct email. It might be download my lead magnet. It might be jump on and register for my next webinar that's coming up. It might be contact the office number, like whatever that is for you. It's taking people to that next step as well. So as we can see here, LinkedIn is more than a social platform. It's a decision-making environment right now. So 4 out of 5 people that are on LinkedIn are driving some sort of business decision. So it's our job, just like I would with my 3-year-old nephew, when we go to cross the road, he stands there, little Kai, he's very cute. He looks up at me, waits for the cars. I grab his hand and I say, come on, this way. And then he walks with me. All right, that's what we want to do with our audience. That's what we want to do with our market on LinkedIn. All right, thank you so much. All right, so we've talked a little bit that it's not a CV, it's a landing page. The beauty of this is when you get this right, we put ourselves in the right opportunity for LinkedIn. So this was just an example of someone who'd reached out to me on LinkedIn. Wasn't through word of mouth, wasn't through referral. So he relies a lot on word of mouth and referrals in the business. Yep. So this was someone completely cold, didn't know me at all. Kirsten reached out, said, hey, do you do this thing? I wonder. And I said, yes. I was actually on my way to Singapore at the time. And so she asked me to do a training for her team. I said, that's fine. It'll have to be online because I'm just about to go to Singapore, so I can't make those dates. She said, that's fine. She paid the invoice when I was up in the plane, and I presented when I was away on holiday in Singapore. And that all happened very quick, not because Kirsten and I had multiple conversations or back and forth, or I was like there convincing her, but because I had a continual presence on LinkedIn where I was showing up and I had put myself in the way of opportunity. So when your market, it's the right time for whatever reason, right? We know that our markets move for different reasons. It might be a timing thing, a budget thing. They're just not needing to solve the problem right now, but it might be a 6-month thing. You want your business to be front of mind. As soon as that light bulb goes on to say, I need this, I know who to contact. Is this making sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. So just to give you an example of the credibility, connection, and contact, headline is a connection strategy. So this is like what your market wants, problems. The credibility there, you can see I've just got some company logos and people I've worked with before. So it's just kind of like the visuals is actually really, really good to use on LinkedIn. So often it's not what you say, it can be the visuals behind it that does the selling for you. And then the contact straight up front is to access my LinkedIn blueprint below. All right. If anyone does want that, it goes with this session. Just send me a message on LinkedIn with blueprint and we'll get that across to you. But that is the key, right? So within 6 seconds, my market can go tick, 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 tick. All right? Can everyone see how they can pull at least one of these elements out for yourself, for your own profile? Yeah, perfect. Are we all feeling better and more relaxed with slides? Absolutely. I am. Perfect. So who here has like multi-passion areas, either in their business or life, maybe running multiple businesses, other things as well, right? Perfect. One of the questions I get asked a lot is if I have different interest areas, how do I actually convey that on my profile, all right? Winston was in the same boat. So he works with a lot of different companies, all different sizes, across all different industries. The experiment we ran with Winston was that out of all the companies, all the clients, all the customers he can possibly serve, when he looked back, we worked out what were the top 10% in terms of best to work with, ease to work with, paid on time, all of those things we look for in terms of a great client or a great customer, right? Worked out that a lot of those were in the non-for-profit sector. So I suggested to Winston, let's target that. And the first thing he said to me was, I don't know. What if I get a startup that wants to work with me? What if I get someone in the pharmaceutical industry that wants to work with me? I can still help them. I said, you know what, Winston, that's great. Because if we target who we actually want, when we get really specific on LinkedIn, it helps you to stand out. So we cut through the noise. And then the second order effect of what actually happens is all of those people can still contact Winston. But it then puts him in a position of power to pick and choose the clients he wants to work with. Is this making sense? So it feels counterintuitive because we feel that if we go out and we have a really specific LinkedIn profile to really specific problems, then we knock out a bunch of our market. But the opposite is true, right? Because we can actually start to pull in the right people like a magnet, and then the other people don't waste our time. Or if they do reach out and they say, hey, my business is a bit different, or my industry is a bit different, can you still help? Then you get to go, yes, we can, or no, it's not the right fit. All right, would that be okay to get a bit more visibility? Yep. So as we start to think about moving through and starting to look at content, this is what I want to highlight just from the room before. Remember when we all stood up? We did that little survey? Now I'm no good at math, but we had like a smaller percentage, definitely of the room, that was sharing content each and every week. So this would be sort of 4% of the room is always sort of sharing content consistently, maybe on a monthly basis. It drops down to about 1% of people that are sharing content consistently every single week. So when we hear a stat like that, what does that instantly bring up for us? Someone yell it out. What do we think?
If we are one of those, we may access better the market. And yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like doing the Bradbury at the Winter Olympics. All right? Everyone else is not trying very hard, or they're stuffing up along the way. You just have to be the person that keeps going across as the finish line. All right? There's a real low bar for LinkedIn sometimes, and you have to be willing and able to put yourself out there. But if you are, you can actually be in the top 4%, 1%. We've already got people in this room that are showing evidence of that. All right? So the thing I want us to really think about is that in this new world where trust is at an all-time low, skepticism is an all-time high, content is your fix. Content is your fix. And so have we all heard of the saying like 7 touch points in marketing or sales, or 7 to 10 touch points or follow-ups or that sort of thing? Now what we're hearing is 7 hours of content is the new 7 touch points. Now if that freaks people out a little bit, then that's okay, because it starts with your first post and it starts from building from there. So that could be people spending 5 minutes to read a post that you put on LinkedIn and accumulating all of that time over time, right, is the way we want to think about it. Or they might be listening to an hour talk, or whatever that looks like, starts to accelerate things. All right, give me a nod if this is making sense. Perfect. So I want to give you a few examples because I want to give you some quick wins, because content can feel like this big thing when we're starting to attract our audience. And it can also feel like it's just this big extra thing to do in our work. So I don't have time today to go through a complete content strategy, but I want to give you some quick wins that you can actually even do in this conference today. Would that be all right? All right, so I've got Andrew as an example here. Andrew simply shares what I call in-the-moment posts. So when he's out with a client or he's out doing something, he will simply take a photo of it, and there might be a lesson or a story or an example or something that he taught in that meeting, in that workshop, that then becomes his post idea. So he's not having to take a whole other day out of his business to sit there and write a post. He's doing it when it's fresh in his head in the moment. All right? Anyone know this guy? Leo is affectionately dubbed the king of selfies in our tribe. And same thing, right? We want to show the behind the scenes of what we're doing. Now, when everyone sees a photo like this, and knowing what you know about how great the community is here, we can get a sense of that. So if people were first coming across Leo for the first time and they knew nothing, they would already see some warm, smiley faces. They would get a bit of an insight in terms of what it's going to be like. All right, and so for Leo, this is kind of as he's doing his work anyway, right? He's running the boards, he's running the meetings. Take a quick selfie, there's your LinkedIn post. All right, so we don't have to overcomplicate it, but you do want to think about playing to your strengths. All right, so when we think about content, 3 things you might want to write down. You want to create what I call SPC content on LinkedIn. So this is content that's specific to our market. So we're talking about the champagne problems. We're talking about the problems that your market only experience. It's content that plays to your strengths. All right, so I use Rob as an example here. He does a lot of facilitation work. He's great on camera. It's really natural and easy for him. So some people, you put a camera in front of their face and they shrink, but Rob's the opposite. And he loves it. So for him, doing some quick videos, sharing some quick tips around his work, maybe straight after a meeting with a client or something like that is really, really useful, and that plays into his strengths, okay? And the other thing we want to think about is we want to make sure that it converts. Now, when I say convert, it doesn't necessarily mean we're saying to people, here's my post, buy my stuff, right? We want to convert them into a next appropriate action. So that might be commenting down below, sharing some of their insights. That might be downloading a resource that you have that's in relation to that post. Might be sending you a DM to start a conversation. Might be booking a call, whatever that is for you. And you want to mix it up along the buyer's journey as well. All right, this is Sophie, another example of just in the moment, where she's actually able to travel and she's very, very specific actually with what she talks about. So she works with a lot of women in leadership, but not just in any industry. She works very much in the tourism hospitality space. So for her, sharing some locations that she's at is really, really cool. Now, what is the real power of being specific on LinkedIn is what happened to Sophie. So when she got really specific about, okay, this is the type of woman that I want to speak to on LinkedIn, these are the type of problems that only she has in this particular industry, LinkedIn actually picked up one of her videos for International Women's Day, shared it across their audience, which got her put in front of 3.9 million followers. All right, would that be okay? If you could piggyback off LinkedIn's audience just by reaching a specific audience yourself, all right? So I'm not going to go through some of these examples, but the big idea here is we want to create a bridge of trust through our content, bridge of trust. That's the engagement photo I referred to earlier. Everyone could go, oh, all right. Then what we want to do is we want to take that attention, we want to take the new people that we've now attracted into our world, and we want to start to amplify those conversations. So here's how I see LinkedIn. Any great sporting team will have an offense strategy and a defense strategy. They might be stronger in one area. They might be stronger in offense or defense. But in order to win the game, they need to have both. Would you agree? Yep. And so the way I think about LinkedIn is your profile and your content is kind of like your defense strategy. You're like, I'm here, people can find me, people can come across me, it can do a lot of the heavy lifting. And then what we want to do is we want to have our offense strategy where we're proactively reaching out to the right people at the right time, but not pitch slapping people, all right? All we're thinking about is taking people from our content into warm conversations, all right? That's the big idea here. So the good news is there is real opportunity on LinkedIn for the people that do show up, are consistent, and have some strategy behind it, not just posting and hoping for the best. All right. And for anyone here, naturally, you've got some more info about me. If I'm here at lunch, if you want to talk to me a little bit further about your business and creating a plan. And if you are a service-based business owner who is looking to take your LinkedIn to the next level, jump in there and apply. We don't work with everyone, so if your business isn't the right fit, I'll absolutely tell you. But you can do that. And I'm going to open up to some quick rapid-fire questions. I've got time for, how many, Sue? How many questions? Oh, okay. Got time for probably 4 questions. Leo.
Okay, ChatGPT.
Yes.
What are the top 3 high-performing LinkedIn profiles consistently do that most people miss? Right.
That one.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's really, I think, out of all of them, I think the one people miss the most is the human connection. Because we are in the world of AI and we have people, it's never been easier before to just put up a piece of content, type it into ChatGPT and go, there we go. My job is done, I can tick that box. It's actually doing more harm to your business than good. So you want to make that human connection. All right, one over here. Yeah.
You mentioned before about founder-led profiles and things like that and not your business page.
Yeah.
Convince me. I struggle because I've spent a lot of years trying to take my face off my business so people deal with my staff and my business so that I can retire, you know. So how do we balance the two?
Yeah. So I think the question was around the company pages, but if you're trying to remove yourself, out of the business and leverage your team as well, then there's a couple of approaches you can do. You can actually get your team's profiles to all be elevated as well and do it as a collective. That works really well. So I've worked with Hydro Tasmania as an example where all the execs got together and elevated the brand that way. I think what you're referring to more is like what we know as like key man risk or key woman risk, right? And often that's the case, I think, is like you as the leader of the business, you can show up and lead that business, but then have your supporting team involved as well. So it's not just your face that they're familiar with. But naturally, speaking in general terms, most people will connect with the founder of the business. Has anyone heard of Alex Hormozy before? Yeah. There was a YouTube clip that he did. He runs a portfolio company around $200 million, so he's got lots of teams, lots of things behind him. He currently, as the founder of all of those businesses, even though he's not in the day-to-day of those businesses, he spends 50% of his working week creating content. So that's sort of what he says is like, that's my job, and everyone else can do the delivery and running the business and the other stuff. So yeah, you're welcome. One from over here. Yep.
How important, like sometimes I'll have a really great idea for a post, I'm not short on content, but it's some kind of visual to go with it. How important is the photo or the image that goes with it for cutting through and for, getting the cut through?
Yeah. All sorts of mediums work well on LinkedIn. So it comes back to playing to your strengths a little bit. And text posts work perfectly fine on LinkedIn. So if it's the case of like, I want to do this post, but I don't have an image that will go with it and it's a matter of posting it or not, post it without an image. Yeah. Text posts perform just fine. But play to your strengths, So you might find that over a 30-day period, if you're doing a few of those, maybe you find that ones with an image outperform. So then you can go, okay, that's my strategy moving forward. So I would say, yeah, definitely don't be afraid to post without an image. Yeah. We've got one down here. Yep.
Is it worth having the premium version?
Premium version of LinkedIn? Okay, so my general census, this is my humble opinion, also don't work for LinkedIn, so it doesn't matter what you do. If you're using LinkedIn for business development purposes, I always recommend using Sales Navigator. For the functionality, the time saving, those sorts of things, it's very worthwhile. You can do everything I've taught today on the basic free version of LinkedIn, that's absolutely fine, but you will hit limitations at some point if you're really serious about business development and you really want to start, driving the volume of leads and traffic that you want to in your profile. So you can absolutely choose to do what you want, but for business, that's the one. Yep.
For someone that doesn't have LinkedIn, we're 1% of the room,
yep.
Would you suggest having someone run it for you if you're... sorry, my husband's telling me
Oh, okay. I was like, there's some coded language going on here.
so could we outsource someone? Is that what you do? like to outsource someone, or would you set it up and then we run it?
Yeah, so I would say, again, out of the businesses I've worked with, the best performing ones are founder-led.
Yeah.
Because until you've got a proven voice, a proven message, and what works, and like your kind of signature style on the platform, even at that point, it's hard to replicate, but it's really hard at the beginning when they've got no sort of basis of what that looks like. So it is the founder-led brands are the ones that are performing the best.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I've got one more question, I believe. Yep, just down here.
I think it was asked before, how important are hashtags, how much is too much, what do they actually do?
Yes, perfect. I'm really glad we brought this up. I can close the loop on hashtags for you down the back. A couple of years ago, hashtags were all the rage on LinkedIn. Everyone was using them, probably overusing them as well. They actually had a function of LinkedIn where you could type in a hashtag and it would bring up topic areas around that. LinkedIn has kind of axed that as a function altogether. So my advice now is that I don't use hashtags personally in my posts anymore. What LinkedIn looks at more so are the keywords in your profile, the keywords in your content, and the keywords in maybe the comments and activities that you're doing. And if all of those align and all of those match up based on what LinkedIn knows about you and who you're trying to get in front of and what your expertise is, that's what's going to perform moving forward. So hashtags, you will still see people using them. If you are going to use them, no more than 3. But we're seeing a movement away from hashtags. All right, perfect. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for all your energy, your engagement along the way. And I want to see you all on LinkedIn, right? Take this as your first chance. Get out there.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leo.
Well done.
Appreciate it.